see you.
Because we can't see them.
Can't see
them. Because they're in there.
Actually, just cameras we're looking at. Welcome back. We are here. Tim's here. I'm here.
Or welcome for the first time.
Or welcome for the first time.
This could be the first time you've ever been here.
That is very inhospitable of me.
Kind of rude.
Yeah.
I'm Anthony. That's me. It's a little trick I play. That's not real.
That's Tim. I'm Anthony. Together we do this really fun podcast called The Bible is Funny Podcast. And today we are doing another dive into the Bible, something we call Cheat Day Devos. Mm-hmm. We like to be specific about that. What this is we're going to discuss the Bible. We do it in kind of a lighthearted way. We point out some stuff we think is funny. If you're here or you're looking for sound doctrinal interpretation and execution and precipitation, this is not the place.
Yeah, dude, go elsewhere. Turn around, drive your car to a different podcast. You got here, and we want to welcome you and hug you, but if that's what you're looking for, we're going to send you on your way. We're going to get into the Bible today, do our Cheat Day Devos, have some fun. But before we jump in, we're going to start off maybe a little bit differently. Tim, if you want to take us through just a little intro here before we start. Yes, so just a note off the top. On one hand, because this is an important chapter.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Genesis 34 and 35 and 36 maybe.
3 chapters today, potentially.
3. But just a note off the top. Mm-hmm. On one hand, you have come to expect we're talking about funny things. This is, in fact, the Bible is Funny podcast, as we said. But the Bible isn't always funny. I know what you're going to say, but Anthony and Tim, you guys make it so approachable, mm-hmm. and my spirits are lifted every time I'm engaged with the divine in these Cheat Day Devos. Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. Of course, you're not wrong.
Abby.
It is unavoidable that the Bible has stories in there that are just about bad things, mm-hmm. and it's full of those. Even in the fun stories we like. Like, for example, Noah's Ark is a real cute story mm-hmm. about how 2 elephants and 2 lions managed to get along on a boat for a month and a half. And all the cheeky shenanigans they got into.
You know they did.
But then there's this, like, not quite so hilarious side of the story where, like, a whole civilization of people, of, like, men and women and little kids, they all got real scared and then they drowned.
Right.
So,
sure.
So that's there, and that's not, like, always fun. And, you know, who also drowned was the brothers and sisters of those lions. And the elephants. Mm. Yeah, that's sad. But not the otters, though. Otters, of course, are too cute to die.
Goes without saying.
Never been a recorded otter death in our lifetime. Some of our, like, famous wild, like, Bible stories are really wild and fantastical, so we can't really relate to them in our modern time.
Sure.
But this next chapter is a little different. The story starts off talking about a young woman getting sexually assaulted. Mm-hmm. And I think it's especially not fun to talk about because it's a real thing mm-hmm. that people still deal with today. And so, sure, like when a chubby king in the Bible gets stabbed and then he poops his pants, we all laugh because there's not like a whole, I don't know how many times that's happened recently, but I don't think it's that many mm-hmm. times, not that I've heard of. But ultimately, we want to let you know that we do not take the subject of what happened to this young woman lightly at all. But we are keeping it here in our podcast because it is part of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And also the revenge story at the end is just really freaking good. And it's just too cool to not talk about. So we hope we can tackle this story with a careful balance of sensitivity mm-hmm. and some humor. But if you want to skip like a couple of minutes through the beginning of the chapter, we totally understand that too.
Totally get that.
It is a tender subject, so please take care of yourself however you need to.
Thank you for that, Tim.
You're welcome, Anthony.
Really do appreciate that. We talked about this beforehand going into this, and I shared some with you, but I think it's good to talk about. I've been doing the Bible is Funny project for several years, and sometimes people will send me stuff from different parts of the Bible. And they're like, isn't this funny? And I'm like, it's not funny to me. It's very not funny. Because the basis of the project is not that the entire Bible is funny. That every single thing that happens in here is all giggles and knee slaps. I do think there's funny stuff. I think there's a lot of funny things. I think that's what we do here on the podcast. We talk about stuff that's funny. But yes, very well said by you, it does not necessitate that every single story in every paragraph we're going to come across is going to be funny. Some of them are tough. Some of them, I think, are strictly like good advice for your life. And that's fine. There's nothing funny about it. So you're not going to see it on the Instagram. You're not going to see it here. Like, there's no joke. It just is. It is. So Bible's a lot of things. Thank you for saying that. And now we're going to jump in.
Let's do it.
Genesis chapter 34 starts. We're still following along with the family of Jacob and Esau. If you've checking in for the first time, you can follow along. Genesis chapter 34. This is where we left off. But honestly, this story kind of starts out of left. There's not like really a preface to this one. This one just kind of fires right off.
Right.
Now Dina's ready. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and defiled her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock, so he did nothing about it till they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they had heard. So I think Jacob was trying to like not let them find out.
Yeah.
But as we all know, when you don't want someone to find something out, they're gonna
find out. I've watched enough cheesy Christian movies to know that.
We've talked about the
Can't
person behind the corner that you didn't know was there, and it gets out to them. And I like to read parts about it. I don't know here that there's anything we specifically need to talk about. The brothers are furious in verse 6 because this was obviously an outrageous thing is mentioned here in verse 7. A thing that should not be done, reiterated. Verse 8. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us, give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us." Did you have something there, Tim?
Yeah, no, it's just funny. They were shocked and furious in verse 6. It says, because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. And okay, yeah, thanks for extra.
That's right. It's like doubling
down.
Point
that out. Just want to let you know this thing should not be done.
This is a bad thing.
And the children's Bible says a thing like this should not be done. So we know don't do it.
Reiterate.
That should not be done.
Double reiterate. Bad thing happened.
The author was just writing. Maybe the disclaimer that we just did.
Right.
They're like, hey, no, that thing shouldn't be done.
This is not right.
Mm-hmm.
So
by the way, Hammer and Shechem. That's how I say their names.
Hammer and Shechem.
And it sounds like an improv comedy duo, like this little sketch comedy duo.
Yeah.
Where they're doing these little. They got top hats and they got zany improv, but it's a little bit of sketch and then the musical stuff.
Right. Can you just give me a handkerchief, Hammer? Okay.
Sure thing, Shechem.
Keeps coming out.
Yeah.
They're clowns. So they keep going through this. So essentially what's happening here, Shechem wants to marry Dinah now. Let me find favor in your eyes, and I'll give you whatever you ask in verse 11. Make the price of the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like. I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me this young woman as my wife.
Blank check. He's got a blank check here.
He's
willing to write whatever he wants because he finds just fascinated by this woman.
Yeah, he really wants to marry her at this point in the story. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. Which is how I'm going to say it from now on.
You have to.
Bible names are funny because I do think you genuinely can come at them and just say them differently. And
who's going to correct you?
Who's wrong? Somebody's wrong. But, a lot of us don't know who's wrong. So we just are like, oh, that's how you say it? That's how I say it. They said to them, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. So this is again, in verse 13 says this was done deceitfully. So this is like a sneaky move.
Which kind of makes me think like maybe they've done this before. Or maybe they've at least thought of this plan before. Which is, it's kind of clever. If somebody does something wrong to our family, let's trick them into cutting the penises off.
I bet, I think we've talked about this before, like, you think through sort of, like, contingency plans for things sometimes that, like, are not likely to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, maybe it's one of those deals where they were out in the fields watching the sheep. You got a lot of time to think. And they're like, hey, if we ever needed revenge on a whole community, this is a plan that we could have cooked up.
We can do this.
Right. Because they were presented with the concept of circumcision and we're like, wow, that's going to be tough. So when we get to, so he says, that's what they say. And this is what's all kind of going on in the water here. Jacob's brothers Jacob's sons, the brothers of Dinah, are like, they're like kind of plotting their revenge. Then you have this little glimpse into Hamor and Shechem. In verse 18, their proposals seem good to Hamor and his son Shechem.
Like, did they though? Did the proposal actually seem good?
Fair question.
You want to cut off what?
Maybe you're not sure of that word. You're like,
yeah. Circumcised? Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, whatever it takes. Like, we'll circle back to kind of...
Like, go around. Yeah, we'll go around whenever.
Sort of.
Gross. Let's see. The young man was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. That's also a gross set of words. Grab the nearest sharp rock. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. This is where we get the glimpse. Verse 21. These men are friendly toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males are circumcised as they themselves are. And here's the twist in 23. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So they're kind of thinking like, we're bigger and stronger.
It's an economical move.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of jumps in. Yeah.
Has the feeling of like corporate takeover a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, sure. We'll let you keep your name, but we're in charge now.
Shared resources.
Yeah.
This is it's not a bad move on their part.
Right. They're kind of pitching it that way. Everybody's got their scheme going into this. So all the men went out of the city gate, agreed. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised.
I want to know, for all these guys who like agreed to do this and thought this was a good plan, like what were they getting out of the deal? Like what did they really think they were going to get out of this deal? Like was it just livestock and access to different like families to marry into? Like how miserable were things going on in their current state that they were like, yeah,
the men at the gate.
That sounds like a good idea.
The dating pool is so shallow for the men at the gate.
It's like,
I
guess. I can cut that off.
The concept here is just...
Wasn't using it anyway.
Okay. So they agreed to it. Every male in the city is circumcised. Again, I always have practical questions of how are you like executing something like that, but let's not.
Do you
get
give
into
a
it.
diagram, an
family
example,
podcast?
Make it look like this.
We don't. You're mobilizing a lot of people to execute, but whatever. Verse 25. This is where, like you mentioned at the top, kind of like the fullness of this story. 3 days later...
This is where it hits too close to home for me, but go on.
A little bit.
Go on.
A little bit. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain... It's a great opening line. Just in case you kind of over-spiritualize the concept of circumcision or something, you just kind of like go past it. Like, no, 72 hours. We're still...
Yeah, no anesthesia. Probably not antibiotics. Nobody's used a clean knife for this. No.
3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male.
They were in such pain from this that it only took 2 men to kill them all. They were writhing in pain.
Yeah, and it's very believable.
And it reminds me of
believable
how my vasectomy went. And it doesn't feel good in my heart. Go back to that moment. It didn't feel good.
On another podcast, we'll go deeper into that story.
Woo!
And all that it entailed. But that's kind of like the fullness of, like we talked a little before, as we do sometimes going into this, and it was like, man, it really is one of those like, it's very unchristian because it's sort of, there's a lot of like violence involved. But when you're watching like a movie and there's like a villain that you hate, right? Like they set the tone of this chapter with like a really like you do not like this character, and the way they sort of like get theirs in the end It's pretty
pretty epic.
pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
If you're watching them again.
Yeah, it's
The fact that these are people, it's not good. You don't like seeing all this violence, but when you kind of receive it as a story, you're like, oh yeah, it's the guy at the end of Die Hard. It's Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator, who I've now referenced in 2 straight podcasts.
wow, good for you.
It's like, oh, I did not like that guy. Oh, Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter. You just you want to see him get what feels fair. So anyway, that's why it's great. Then you get, verse 26, they put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields, carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the house. Then you get 30. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You've brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, this is fitting end to the whole chapter, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?"
Dad.
And Dad's got to go like...
That was me.
Yeah.
I added that.
But it's kind of implied. End of conversation. Again, none of this chapter is good. None of it do we co-sign. But it is an isolated kind of one chapter story.
Yeah, they didn't make it on the flannel graph as
This
a
one's
kid.
not one you taught. This one's not one you taught in Sunday school.
No, never. I don't think I ever heard it.
So that's Genesis 34. Then you go to 35, go up to Bethel, settle there. God says to Jacob, go up to Bethel, settle there, build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau.
Remember the time you were being a big baby? Remember just running away from your brother who actually wasn't that mad at you? Remember that time? Yeah, I'm gonna remind you of that forever. Build an altar there.
This family in
never
Genesis,
going away.
always scared of their family, who actually is just trying to be nice. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you and purify yourselves and change your clothes.
And brush your teeth.
Yeah, the last
Go to
one
bed.
felt very hygienic. He's saying that to the kids, The other two have very clear spiritual implication. Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you. You got to get rid of those. You got to purify yourself. We got to really focus on this and, golly, change your clothes.
You've been wearing the same tunic all week.
This is your stinking Donald Duck t-shirt. It's church day. You're embarrassing me. Then come and let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me wherever I've gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. This is kind of subtly slipped in there that all these foreign gods were present. I don't know when they got in there, but everybody... Apparently, they were everywhere.
And do you think they made a little treasure map to find it?
It's just
just in case they needed to go back and pick up that gold and meld it down into something. The Message Bible says they turned over to Jacob all the alien gods they'd been holding on to, along with their Lucky Charm earrings.
Their Lucky Charm earrings.
Yeah, the marshmallows, I imagine, were the actual earrings.
Yeah,
and then because you don't want to put the wafer bits or.
They're always after
bits.
me Lucky Charms.
Yeah, those what do we call the other bits of the Lucky Charms?
The toasted oats.
Yeah. But they're just shapes. They're not charms, and they're not lucky.
No.
The lucky ones are the marshmallows.
No, the strategy of Lucky Charms is you just gotta pack whatever positive things you can into those. I imagine they're full of riboflavin and whatever you can justify as this isn't terrible for you, and then you try to balance out the marshmallows, which are marshmallows.
Even more processed marshmallows than marshmallows are processed.
Somebody recently was we got these good, because we eat organic stuff, and we do too. So he was we got organic marshmallows, and I was this is one that I'm what? Is there a good way to do the marshmallow? The marshmallow does not grow from the ground.
Yeah.
There's not I don't know that we've got better and worse marshmallows. I think if you engage in marshmallow, it's you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I'm with you. And there's technicalities. There's some pieces to that one is slightly better than the other.
I'm sure.
Are we really?
I'm sure.
What are we really talking about?
It's no, this Mountain Dew is good for you. Is it? No.
Uh-huh.
If it's Mountain Dew.
Yeah, the green dye came from spinach.
It's possible. Popeye stuff
just
now.
full of sugar.
Yeah, I don't know. So they the gold earrings go down. That's a fun thing if you look back in Bible stuff. The earring trend has really turned. There's things in the Bible we like still are like on about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of practicing Christians still focus on. But we've really pivoted on earrings as like generally they come across here as like I purified my heart to the Lord, so I got rid of my earrings. And then somewhere along the way we were like,
Just keep them.
just keep the earrings. We're just gonna hold on to them now.
Cool.
We're gonna make them very normal. So they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan, and there he built an altar. And he called the place El Bethel.
He called it El Bethel because they spoke Spanish, I believe.
What does that mean in Spanish?
The Bethel.
It was Luz, then it was Bethel, then he called it El Bethel. So no one's naming this place correctly at this. Like, no one knows what it's called. Because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel. So that was called Alan Bakuth.
Yeah, that means oak of crying.
So just to rendezvous at this place is impossible. You know what I mean? You want to meet up at Alan Bakuth? I don't know what that is. Why don't we just meet at Bethel? What is that?
Oh, El Bethel to you.
What? I don't know. Alan, I don't know of these places.
You lose.
Alan Bakuth. Lose. It's a lose-lose situation with these names. You could say. After Jacob returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. Israel means he struggles with God, so it's kind of a callback to this. Diehard listeners will remember he was laying down. I think in Bethel, the original Bethel.
Yeah, but didn't he get named there? I thought God gave him the name there. That was it was like, is this a glitch in the system? We already heard this story.
Maybe Jacob was not.
Yeah, remember he gets broken in the hip, and he's like, "You're Israel now."
Maybe he was
Jacob.
like not using the name, and this was like a
Final straw.
hey,
Serious now.
hey.
You were given 2 months to adapt. Now we're turning off the old system.
It's over now.
Got to adapt to the new one.
It's over. So and people would be like, hey, Jacob, hey, can you just sign this? He's like, not turning around. Nope. I don't respond to that name.
Shut down that old email address. It's now a new email address, and you're going to use it. Told you I'm not checking it after March 1st.
This actually checks what we're saying, because it's like God says to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. This is what this is. Your name will be Israel. I'm naming you Israel. Cut it out.
Seems like you thought it was a joke last time.
Cut it out with that old stuff. I am kind of curious about this. This is a theme in the Bible. He gets renamed. Jesus renames people during his time. Like, part of me is like, and I think this is probably a real thing. We need to bring Mal on to talk about this. Because it's like, how many of us are walking around with the wrong name? Like, how many of us should be named something else? We don't have the right name. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I'm Anthony, but what should I be named?
You mean like from a past life or something?
I don't know. It's like Israel should be Jacob's name. So God changes it. And you want to kind of be like, is Anthony okay?
Really
should I get a different name?
Slap in the face to the parents who spent some time thinking of the kid's name.
Yeah, but like, that's hard. I think Jacob's name means like trickster.
Right.
Or, like, so he probably didn't mind the name
one who
change.
deceives or something.
Right. He was probably like, how hard did the parents think of that name? And I think Esau's name meant like red and hairy, didn't it? So like, yeah, I'm not giving the parents any credit for these names. They're like, the parents in Bible times are literally naming them like, let's call it umbilical cord. And they're like, no, we already named a kid that. Okay, what about like baby goo?
So they're making the parents of the 80s and 90s actually look like they were attentive.
Right. That's right. They were just naming it for things around them. Like one child in the Bible is named like Pain. Like you're just you're Brick from Anchorman. Why don't we call the baby Tent? Are you just saying that because you're in a tent? No. Let's call the baby Sand.
You're just naming things in the room.
Martha, this is just visible things right now. No, it's not.
I'm going to name him Hurts in the Vagina. Why is that, honey? Why do you want to name him that?
So verse 11, God said to him, I'm God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number.
I just imagine walking around town introducing yourself with that name. Sorry, go on.
It would be one, though, that people are like, oh, why are you named Tim? That would be a name they're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, you had to change it.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Why you get called that. Why a mom would name a kid that. God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. And the land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also will give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. God went up from him at that place where he talked with him. Jacob sets up a stone pillar. We know how Jacob feels about rocks and stones, where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called that place where God had talked with him Bethel.
Again, I feel like we already knew this. We knew that info. But, yeah, repeat it again. It's fine. It's what we do.
We got to, because people are still calling it Luz. Then they moved on from Bethel, where they were still some distance from Ephrath. Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, don't despair, for you have another son.
You got another kid, right? Okay, that's cool.
Good news.
Good news.
Good news.
But you have another one, right? I don't think that's what you want to hear when you're in childbirth. You have more kids, right?
You have another.
You don't need this one.
Right. But she was saying good news, and like, hey, it's another son. So then, who we talking about? Rachel. So as she breathed her last, Rachel, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni. So again, I don't want to get sad on the podcast. The Bible's Funny podcast, but this is kind of a beautiful picture of a mother really giving of herself, literally everything she's got to bring this life into the world. She looks at those beautiful baby eyes. She says, I see you and I know you, and your name is Ben-Oni, and you're going to have a great life.
Little Benoni.
Who's
a little Benoni?
My Benoni has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. My Benoni has a second name.
Stop.
So Rachel, she's that's it. You are Ben-Oni. Go and live your life to the fullest. She dies. Verse 18. But his father named him Benjamin. What, Tim? What? The last thing she did on this earth was name this precious baby child. And the father's like, she called him, what did she call him?
Yeah, no.
What if let's not do that.
No.
Didn't even you can call him something else. I think Benjamin could be a nickname for Ben-Oni.
I don't think so. Benoni. No, I just think about the lasting impact from that decision that he made. How many people do you know now named Benoni?
Oh, that's true.
I don't know any.
That's true.
And wow, what an influence on our society.
I had a friend who got a tattoo that said Ben-Oni. 100. That's a 100% true story.
Come on.
I don't want to put him on blast on the podcast. I don't know what he's up to. Went to church with him. He got a Ben-Oni tattoo.
For this?
I don't know. I cannot. When I came across this verse and the way it's presented, I missed it. I missed it before.
If you're listening and you have a Ben-Oni tattoo, reach out. Tell us why, please.
I'm gonna find my guy I know
there
that
might
has
be someone named Benoni.
Every time you say it, it sounds like baloney. The fact that as she breathed her last, for she was dying, is reiterated in verse 18. Mm-hmm. She named her son. This might be the last words out of her mouth. And Benjamin...
She should have picked better words.
comes in. What did she say?
If my mom picked out a weird name for me, as she died, I would be thankful that my dad changed it.
Wow. You heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here first, Bible's Funny family. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath. that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day, that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. That's a part of the story there, verse 22. Father's concubine is kind of an interesting thing to take in, but it's like essentially, so Jacob has Rachel and Leah, and then they had like handmaids, and so I would imagine this would be like an aunt kind of, because it's not your mom, but it would be like, it's a gross choice.
Either way, he decided to go for it.
Gross choice, Reuben. So anyway, then we get Jacob had 12 sons, the sons of Leah. That was my other question. Like, Israel heard of it. Like, is there a rumor that got around? Like, what? And then they leave it. This is one verse we spend on this story. Something happened. Israel heard of it. End of story.
And we're done.
Jacob had 12 sons, the sons of Leah. Reuben, the firstborn. He just goes through all the sons. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years, then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. 180 years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. It was a very long time. Little note there, though, Esau and Jacob bury him together. Friends, right?
Yeah.
Family coming together. Love that. All right, Genesis 36. This is something I'm excited about, because this is you come across these chapters in the Bible. If you have read the Bible a lot, or you're familiar with it in any way, shape, or form, you've probably seen this. If you're not, you might not be. And this is just like a genealogy chapter. So this was like they just go through and say whose kids are whose.
Yeah, it's almost like an index afterward, like at the end of a book that's got a lot of facts. Like, you're not going to read all the references. It's good to maybe have that in the back you can look to, but that's kind of what this is. So it's not really a funny chapter. It's not bad. It's just not even actually that interesting.
Right. It's just you can go in here and skim it. We're not, again, you can check our work here. It tells a little bit about Esau finding a place to like be. He goes and creates some distance from Jacob in verse 6, and then it just goes into there. Here's the sons of everybody. This is the account of the family line of Esau, is verse 9, and so on and so forth. These are the names of Esau's sons in 10. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
What I thought we could do, Tim, I thought we could create a little challenge out of this. This is where we're going to conclude our podcast today. The challenge here is to take this, because what happens in these chapters is there's a lot of names, because it's like so-and-so was so-and-so's son, so-and-so was so-and-so and so-and-so's son, so-and-so was the great-great-grandfather of so-and-so.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of Bible names, which maybe that's one of your favorite parts of the podcast, is hearing us attempt to say Bible names.
It is one of mine.
I'm really good at it.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm really good at it.
Really accurate, probably.
But some people struggle, and so my heart goes out to them. What I thought the challenge would be is to pick 5 names. Did you do 5?
You gave me the challenge of doing 5, and I got 5.
Okay. Pick 5 of these names and use them in a wordplay or pun situation. So we're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna kind of ping pong it, and I want you to tell me the verse where you got it from. And or just use it in context, and then give me the verse where you got it from.
All right. I'm gonna start off very simple, very easy, just a baseline. Verse 1. This is the account of the family line of Esau. That is Edom. Mm-hmm. And then I said, Edom, hardly even know him. Got him.
That's how this game works. Mm-hmm. I also started pretty basic. This is at verse 32. Bela, son of Beor, became king of Edom. My question was, what is the real question here? To be or not to be? That is the question.
To be or got it.
To be or not to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, in that same verse. This is so dumb, but that's what we're doing. This is why it's cheat day Devos.
Yeah, give it to me.
All right. In the same verse, Bela, son of Beor, became king of Edom. His city was named Dinhabah. And the Dinhabah, that's what gets wrong when it's time for supper. A dinner pal. It's a little bit of a stretch, but all of mine, I think,
32. Okay.
Yeah. I think they all have something. It helps to have a southern accent.
I like. Yeah, you're doing yours in character. That's good. All right, verse 16.
Okay.
Verse 16. Korah, Gotham, and Amalek. These were the chiefs descended from Eliphaz. This is a little bit participatory from your standpoint. Ball guy says what?
Which one is this? Verse 16?
Yeah, it's verse 16. And it's participatory. You have to participate. Ball guy says what?
What?
Got him! Got him!
Okay. Ada bore, this is verse 4.
Okay.
Ada bore Eliphaz to Esau. Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibama bore Jeush. I mean, he wasn't like a full son of Israel, but I'd say he's Jewish. Jewish.
That's really bad. That might get cut from the pod.
Come on, what? Again, it was not me
What was
reading
the
it.
verse?
It's verse 4.
How do they spell
Or
this?
Jewish. Follow along. Jeush. It's Jewish. Jewish.
That is funny. Okay. Verse 22. Verse 22. The sons of Lotan, Hori, and Homam. Timnah was Lotan's sister. A lot of people are familiar with that verse. Verse 22. So this is you have to you have to participate in this one too. You have to say to me, I think I'm gonna grow out a mullet.
Okay.
Scene.
Hey Anthony, I think I'm gonna grow out a mullet.
Timnah! Nah! Timnah!
Okay.
Got it?
All right. So verse 20. Mm-hmm. This is my next to the grand finale.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because I got a grand finale at 5. These were the sons of Seir the Horite, who were living in the region. Mm-hmm. And that sounded to me like when your country uncle comes in to check on you after you've been drinking too much. And you go, hey, Seir, all right? Seir, all right?
You've been drinking too much, or your country uncle's been drinking too much?
He's checking on me. He's also been drinking heavily.
You should not.
Seir, all right?
Down he goes. Down he goes. All right, verse 27. The sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, and Achan. Is that a car? Nah, Zavan, brah.
Oh, shoot. I have another one. I have an extra one.
That was really, really bad.
I have an extra one because of it. Because you mentioned that one. There was one earlier in verse 23 of... This is going to be my honorable mention before I hit the grand finale.
Yeah.
In verse 23 of the previous chapter, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Issachar, it's a bus, it's a bike, I don't care. Whatever takes me to my destination.
You could do them both together. You could say...
I know, that's what reminded me of that.
It's a car? Nah, it's a van.
It's here, alright?
You go to the...
Whatever I tell you it's gonna be.
It's a rental car exchange. Is a car? Nah, it's a van. Okay.
Here, then about.
All right, grand finale.
Did you do... Okay, alright. I gotta find it. Okay.
I got my grand finale if you want me to go first.
No, I'll do it. I hope it's on the same one. Verse 2.
Okay.
The name is around here a couple times. Esau took his wives from the women of Canaan, Ada, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibama. Mm-hmm. And it sounded a little Oholibama. This is what was spoken in the 17th century before the term roll tide was invented for the University of Alabama. Oholibama, is that Nick Saban walking across campus? Skin me naked and call me a kicker. Alabama.
Alabama. Oh, that's really good. And full disclosure, that name is so perfect that I couldn't come up with anything for it. So I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Holy Bama?
Oh, Alabama.
Oh, holy Bama.
That Nick Saban?
That's what Bama fans said to each other, yeah, as they passed. Holy Bama. All right, mine came from verse 23. The sons of Shobal, Alvin, Manahath, Ebal, Shephu, and Onam. And this is my final. Man, I got a huge bite while I was fishing the other day. It was a monster fish. Pulled up, he was definitely on the hook, and then the line broke, and it was a huge bummer. And I look over the captain of the boat, and I said, "Man, I have it! Man, I have it!"
That was your finale. Man,
I have it!
I have it.
Man, I have it!
I have it right in my hand.
It was so close. Man, I have it!
Yeah, you alright?
You went very southern on all yours.
Except for the Issachar.
He's a car.
Issachar.
He's a van. That's it. Genesis 34 through 36. We did it.
We did 3 chapters today.
3 chapters. You can report back to your spiritual mentor. You did 3 chapters of your devos today. But they were cheat day devos. So, there's that. Mm-hmm. But, you did it. We did it. Mm-hmm. Together. Good for us. Mm-hmm. That's it for the pod.
Thanks for coming out and learning with us.
Oh, we didn't even... Tim, what'd you learn today?
I learned that revenge is an interesting dish to be served. And I don't know how good it tastes, but it's best served after like 3 days when everybody's still sore.
It's certainly that's a strategic time to serve revenge for sure. I think I learned about naming things today. Like, just that every name you come across is optional. You know what I mean? Change it. You feel like, oh, you live in Tampa? Nope, I don't. I live in Zootown. and you just push it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Push it. Make it stick. And then people call into Tampa. You're like, no, stop it.
Say, no, God told me to name it.
You're
Zootown.
You're at a Bucks game. They're like, Tampa. You're like, Zootown. I reject that name of this town. All the names are optional. Go out there. Change the name of things. We love you. Thanks for following along. If you're not already, follow on Instagram, TikTok, @TheBibleIsFunny. And we'll be back here with an episode real soon. Right, Tim?
Sounds great to me.
Later.
Bye.
The Bible is for